my name is Scarlett and I run a small business called AFRAYED Upcycling. I take secondhand textiles and make snazzy, unique, size-inclusive clothing and accessories, and I predominantly use tea towels in my work. And I thought it would be quite cool to show you how to make your own little tea towel midi skirt, but it's going to be a little different. So I quite like the idea that it's going to have lots of different ways of wearing it. So you could have like the tea towel at the front, at the side, at the back, and each time you turn it around it's got a little different design, so you can wear it in multiple ways. I think this is going to be quite a easy tutorial, especially for beginner sewers. Let's go through the list of things you need. In terms of equipment, you're going to need your scissors, a tape measure, obviously a sewing machine. I have an industrial Juki. Before you ask, it is a DDL 8700 and it is my baby. I absolutely love this machine, but any home machine will do. You don't really need a overlocker for this. I mean, obviously it makes it a lot easier, but if you know different ways of finishing your seams and edges, then do that. You will also need some elastic. So I only put elastic at the back of this skirt. So if you need to measure just from one side to the other side, make sure it fits, and that's probably all you're going to need. I am all about upcycling and having a bit of fun with textiles. So if you wanted to just make a tea towel and just one fabric, then you're probably going to need about 2 meters, but double check your measurements and make sure you've got enough to have a gathered waist and the desired length that you want. But for me, I'm planning to use quite a few different materials and I will give some measurements shortly. Let's move on to the tea towel and what materials are required for this project. Let's go. Okay, so for fabrics, as it's a tea towel midi dress, you are going to need a tea towel, would you believe? So this one, they all come in different sizes a lot of the time, but I think the standard size is 150 centimetres long by 75 wide. And you can have any size tea towel because I'm going to show you how you can add little elements to make it longer, shorter. If you have a horizontal tea towel, that's also fine, but I do find when it starts to get gathered, if you have a wide tea towel, then you might lose the main design. So I've got this beautiful vintage tea towel that I got for Christmas last year, and this is the perfect opportunity to make myself something with it. If you do buy a vintage tea towel and it's unused, sometimes they come with, they feel a bit waxy and it could be just like starch or whatever. So what I tend to do is I hand wash all of my tea towels with a bit of fabric softener and bio laundry detergent stuff, and I just do like a hot wash for an hour, just let them soak and just sort of move them around to kind of make them a bit more softer. And you do want it a little bit soft because the top part is going to be folded over and that is going to sit on your waist. So you don't really want a scratchy linen material. So try and soften your tea towel if you can. Or alternatively, you can literally just add a nice soft cotton waistband at the top, but I will show you how to do all that. For fabrics, I've gone with a range of materials. So I've got pieces of a curtain, which is this very soft, I think it's going to be a blend, a cotton polyester blend, probably. I do have some of this rough linen material, and I'm not going to put that anywhere near the waistband because I don't want it to scratch me. Then I have some of this velvet or velour. Velvet, I think. That's just like a remnant, and then some other bits of remnants, and I've got some other bits, but I've also got this piece which someone donated to me recently, and it's really delicate chiffon. It could even be silk, like it is so delicate, but we're going to make a nice little design feature with this as well. So that is all of my materials. I'm probably not going to use all of these materials because there is a lot here, but it'll be good to show you how I mix them all in to make my own unique dress. And lastly, I really want to add trimmings because I love a little bit of extra snazziness. So let's go through my trimming box. To make the skirt, we are basically going to do 2 large rectangles which are going to be stitched at the sides and gathered at the waist. So grab your tape measure and measure the smallest part of your waist. Then the rule for a gathered waistline is to do 1.5 your waist measurement. So mine is 34 inches. So if I divide that by 2, that makes 17 inches. And then we add the 17 to the 34. So the length I need is 51 inches. You just put it to the smallest part of your waist and then your desired hem. So I've gone for 31 inches for the overall length. Because we need to insert this 1.5 inches wide elastic at the back and a large tie at the front, we are going to need to add an extra 3.5 inches to the upper length. That way, when it gets folded over, we are basically making the casing for this. And with my one, I want to add a 6-inch little ruffle around the bottom of the skirt because I love a little ruffle. So we are going to need to subtract 6 inches from the overall length as well. So for example, 31 inches was the length I wanted. So if we add the 3.5 inches, then subtract the 6 inches, I have 28.5 inches for the overall length. And because we are making 2 rectangles, with the waist measurement that you've just done, divide that by 2 and then you have your first rectangle. So for mine, it is 51 divided by 2. So that's 25.5 inches wide, and then we have 28.5 inches long. So that is essentially your pattern piece, and you need to do that times 2 to make the full skirt. If you want to do a ruffle like mine, then you just need to double that waist width again. So that is going to be 102 inches for me. And then we are going to make it 7 inches wide. So 6 inches for the actual ruffle and then 7 inches to include a little hem and the seam allowance. As mentioned before at the start of the video, this skirt is going to have some elastic at the back, and then it's going to have a tie that goes through like a little channel in the waistband, and it comes out through a little buttonhole thing. So to calculate your tie length, it is basically just your waist length by 3.5 inches long. So you're going to need 2 of them because one's going to go through the waistband here and the other is going to be stitched directly onto the side. That way when you go to tighten it, it can just be tied up at the side and you get a nice little bow tie detail at the side as well. So for my skirt, I'm going to need 2 rectangles being 34 inches long on each and then 3.5 inches wide for both. And those are all the measurements that you are going to need for your midi skirt. For cutting out, keep your measurements handy. However, if you're not too confident, then I recommend just either sticking loads of A4 paper together or getting some newspaper and draw out these pattern pieces if you want. The first thing we need to do is to cut the tea towel to size, and then I can start to add all the other bits of fabric based off the size of this. So grab your measurements. So I've got 28.5 inches for the overall length for now. Don't worry about measuring the width because we're going to be adding more fabric to make up the 25.5 inches. So you just need to go from the top. Okay, so for the width of one of my rectangles, it says 25.5 inches, and that is just basically the waistband measurement that we calculated before divided by 2. I'm just going to round this up to 26 inches just to include a little seam allowance at the sides. So as you can see, I've measured 26 inches, and because the tea towel is going to take up most of the front, I only need to add about 7 inches of fabric on this side. And as mentioned before, I'm going to try and add some of my softer fabrics at the top. That way it doesn't itch on the waistband. So let's go ahead and fill in this bit of this rectangle. Okay, so after you've patched your pieces together and given it a quick press, just make sure to double check your measurements and put your markings of where you need to cut the excess off, and then just lob it off. You've now made your front piece of the midi skirt, and you can use this as a template for your back piece. So exact same measurements, and just go a little crazy with your patching and trimmings. As you can see with this one, I ended up adding some of that brown lace directly on top and just stitched on. But after we construct the skirt, we can add some embellishments and things like that after. But if you wanted to actually work it into your patchwork, then now's the time to do it. Okay, so you should now have two large rectangles in the same sizes. For the back piece, I added this little patch pocket. Just if you do add a little pocket, just make sure you do at least 6 inches from the top, just because when you fold this over, you don't want it too close or in on the waistband, I guess. Now, the next thing we need to do is to attach these two rectangles together. So right sides facing, you want to stitch down the length on both sides. So let's do that. Once you've stitched the sides together, we are then going to create the waistband elastic channel. So fold over 1/2 inch, press, and then fold over 1.5 inches. And it should look a little like that. And you need to do it all around the top of your dress. Oh, skirt. So this is how it should look. So you should have this thick folded over waistband all the way around. And then if we just fix where we want the front, then for the tie, we're going to need to add a little buttonhole just about here. So not on the seam, but about 1.5 inches away. So we're going to do a little marking of where we're going to have this little buttonhole. From the thing here, about 1.5 inches. And then you don't want it too close to the seam, so about 0.5 centimetre from each point. If you don't have the machine to do a buttonhole, or you don't really want to do a buttonhole with a tie, you can literally just measure your waistband and minus about 2.5 inches off that measurement and just have an elasticated waist instead. But we're going to do a little buttonhole for this, so I'm just going to go grab my machine and do this. And just note, you want the buttonhole only on this top of the fabric. So we just unravel what you've just pressed, and then you're only doing the buttonhole here. I recommend adding a tiny bit of interfacing just on the back. As you can see, there's the markings, so I would add a little bit of interfacing here before doing the buttonhole, just so it's a little bit stronger. Okay, so this is how the buttonhole should look. So it's only on the top fabric and it's been stabilized with a bit of interfacing. So before we move on to doing the waistband, we just need to go and make the ties. So let's do that. Referring back to your measurements, you just need it as long as your waist measurement and then 3.5 inches wide. And then to make the ties, you just fold them right sides together along the longer edge. Ooh. And then you just stitch down here and all the way down here. And you do that for both ties, and then you need to turn them inside out and then press. Voila, I have 2 ties. So for this part, for the waistband, we're going to need just one of these ties and your elastic. So I'm going to show you how to attach both of them to your skirt. So we're only adding elastic to the back of the skirt. So what I recommend is to measure from the back your side to side of your waist. So mine measured 16 inches, and I'll show you on my own body where I've measured myself. Then what you want to do is subtract 4 inches, so mine will be 12, and then cut your elastic to this new measurement, like that. Then once you've done your elastic, grab your tie, and you've got your nice neat end here, and you've got your raggedy end here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to overlap these by about 1/2 inch and stitch them down. So do a few little stitches just to secure this bit in place. There you go, like so. So pretty secure. With your skirt, you need to go for the seam opposite your buttonhole. So this is the side seam, and you need to fold your waistband that you have pressed oh so nicely, and then just pin in place. So you want the middle to kind of align with the middle of the seam here. So pin that in place. Like so. Then with the other side of the elastic, you are going to want to make sure it lays flat like this, and you're going to want to pin it to the other side seam by about 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. So encase that, fold where you've done your pressing, and then pin in place. So it should look a little weird like that. Then before we start pinning the waistband to the skirt like that, we are going to need to open this buttonhole and then thread this tie through the buttonhole. Then when you thread the tie, you don't want it to get twisted as soon as you start to stitch this down. So if you just follow it through, so then you know when you go to stitch it down, it shouldn't be twisted. So we're just going to pull this through the buttonhole like that. Now we're going to stitch all the way along this very edge, encasing the tie and the elastic. So when you get to the elastic part in particular, you are going to want to stretch this out and making sure not to catch the elastic. So you can either pin this, or if you're quite confident, you can just go ahead and just stitch right away. I'm just going to put a few pins in just to keep it all in place. And then same with this tie. If it's easier, just tuck it under a little bit further and then stitch down. Just quickly, before you stitch this down, just do a few little stitch in the ditches at the side seams just to secure the elastic in place. That way, before you go ahead and stitch this down, it won't be pinging out at the sides. So secure both seams where the elastic is with a couple of stitches, so where you've done your pins. So it doesn't have to be stitched in the ditch, it can just be to the side. So we're going to do that first, and then we're going to top stitch this waistband. Right, so once you've done that, it should look a little like this. So you've got your elasticated waist here, and you've got your little channel with the tie here. Then what you do with your second tie is you get the little raggedy end and just tuck in, the edges like this. And then you just top stitch this directly onto the side seam like that. So I would do a little square to really secure it in place. So then when you go to tie your skirt, it will be tied at the side like this. Ta-da! So that is securely on. So this is how it's looking so far. You've got this part and then you've got the elasticated back here. So I really want to add a 6-inch ruffle. So from my measurements, I'm going to do a piece that is 102 inches long, which is quite a long piece, and then 7 inches wide, and that has like a 2 centimetre hem and a seam allowance as well. So if you want to add a little ruffle as well, then I suggest doing that. And I'm going to be a little lazy, so this fabric I really want to use, and instead of hemming, I'm just going to use the end of the selvage end of this because it's just all neat and tidy. So I am literally just going to cut the measurements from this and add this. But I'm also going to add some lace and bits, so yes. Right, so this is how it's looking so far. So I've added this little chiffon ruffle, and I think it's perfect for these kind of colours, but I do want to add some more embellishments. So if you don't want to add any embellishments or anything extra, you can just leave it here. But I really just want to add a few more little bits of lace and trimmings and ribbons, and I think I might try and see if I can add some more of this chiffon maybe on top of the design, maybe. So the next thing we need to do is put this on a mannequin and start experimenting a little bit. Like I said at the start, this is all about having a bit of fun with fabrics. So I ended up draping this little bit of remnant chiffon and just literally just pinned it in little places, and I'll just secure them with a little bit of a stitch, and it creates this really nice ruffle waterfall thing. And then we're gonna add this little trimming here. I just need to chop that and stitch it on. And then yeah, we've got some really nice little details, and then I've got some lovely beading here, especially the like golds and yellows and reds. We're gonna just add a few of those somewhere on the body of these birds. But yeah, it's nearly finished. Okay, I am finished and I'm going to try it on, and it should hopefully fit because this is a tutorial on making this. I did add a few little beads, but I think I'm going to see if I can find some secondhand sequins in this kind of colour, because I think adding some sequins to this without making it quite heavy with beads, I think it's going to look really good. But let's try this on and see how it turned out. What's cool about this skirt is that you can wear it in lots of different ways. So this is the original way with the tea towel, kind of, yeah, like center stage, yeah. And then if you just switch it around a little bit, I mean, you can switch it so the tie is sort of in the middle like this, and you've got like a little pocket at the front here, and it's showing just a little bit of the tea towel, but you've got more of the patchy design that you did on the back here. And then if you wanted to swivel it around again, be worn this way as well. And yeah, so if you have like a different top or whatever in these kind of colours, then you can wear that and just have, I don't know, just it gives you endless outfit options basically, because you've got different colours on each part. So, and you got a nifty little pocket just here as well for like your keys. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could probably just do like 3 or 4 tea towels and then just have them featured in different parts of the skirt, and then you can just swivel it around for your favourite tea towel for that day. But yeah, this is definitely how I would wear it. So with the tea towel kind of here, with the little frilly bits here. Actually, I'd probably have this more to the side there. But yeah. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial on how to make your own midi skirt using a tea towel. I would absolutely love to see what you make with this tutorial, so please tag me, DM me, email me, whatever you need to do, because I would just love to see what you make. I really enjoyed doing this tutorial and I hope to do a few more, so if you can, please like and subscribe to the channel so I can keep doing that. Let me know in the comments below what kind of tutorials you want to see from me. Yeah, thank you so much and see you next time. Bye.